Hello and welcome to Waster, or actually that's not what it's called. It's called Recycle. Don't be a waster, our regular podcast on all things recycling. On a lot of our podcasts, we talk about innovation and changes to recycling and how innovation can save the world, is the dream, and how recycling can improve outcomes for the environment and everything else. But look, I'll be honest, I think there are significant barriers to innovation in the world of recycling and in the world of just the environment in general. And I suppose I just want to put a few of those down in this podcast today. Clearly, recycling, waste, they're huge sectors. Clearly, we care about the environment. Clearly, it's massively important that we recycle more. But I'm going to argue that I don't think we have enough recycling investment. I don't think we have enough, venture capital investment, certainly not similar to what we see in other sectors. You look at Silicon Valley tech startups and where the big money goes, and so much of it goes to, you look at Amazon, which is fundamentally online retail, Uber, which is, I suppose you could call it a traffic management system or a public transport system to some, a rideshare system or whatever you want to call it. Google, online search, etc. But when you think how much publicity we talk about, how much the news talks about recycling and the environment, why is there not as many massive startups in this sector? And I suppose some of my thoughts on this, I've got a couple of thoughts. One of the issues with recycling, I suppose, is it's a heavily regulated sector. Even though if people don't want to admit this, it's a very regulated area whereby government legislation pushes people to do things that oftentimes they're not overly keen on doing from a commercial perspective. Whether it's Coca-Cola or Pepsi-Cola or major manufacturers having long-term stewardship or ownership or responsibilities to recycle the bottles, etc. they make. A lot of the companies traditionally haven't really thought about that, haven't really focused on that or internalized those costs. So a lot of what leads to these, leads to people making decisions from a financial basis is based around legislation. Whether it's as simple as a product stewardship, that an espresso pod has to be recycled, this sort of stuff, that councils, local municipalities have to recycle X amount, that we can't incinerate waste due to this reason, that our target for a country is to get recycling to this. A lot of these are government mandated numbers. Are they really coming organically from the people? Are they really coming organically from companies themselves? It's a question. Look, on this podcast, we often say that if you're a greener business, it will save you money up to an extent. If you recycle more, less goes to landfill. We often say that, and we also say that the customers will go to your business or are more likely to go to your business if you're a greener business, if you don't use plastic straws, etc. And to some extent that is true, but I don't think it leads to real innovation and investment in the sector. Even in Australia, in most of our states and territories, we have what are called waste levies, which are designed to do two things. Fundamentally, it charges money for dumping at landfill. In New South Wales, it's now, I can't remember what the exact number is, but it's getting close to $200 a tonne, I think. I don't have it in front of me, and for some reason it slipped my mind. But we're talking significant amounts of money. And with that, the argument is that it makes recycling relatively cheaper, not absolutely cheaper, but relatively cheaper vis-a-vis general waste, and B, this money is supposed to be reinvested into recycling technology, recycling facilities, etc. But we've covered in this podcast that not all of that money, and to be honest, less than half, goes into actual recycling. Recycling grants, recycling investments are realistically quite low, and they're not generally based around innovative technology, venture capital style technology. At least in New South Wales and in Victoria, they're mostly based around very practical, proven implementation of recycling machines, of recycling methods, rather than inventing new ones. So is there really a market for invention of these new machines, new items? I'm going to argue no. There are already quite a few recycling technologies that are really promising. you can recycle nappies or diapers, but at the minute in Australia, nobody does it, despite the fact plants exist. You can create oil from plastic, but again, it's very, 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 very low tech, very lowly spread through in the global economy. And you ask yourself, why is this? Isn't it something that people value more? But I suppose fundamentally the argument has to be that investors see it as a low financial return. They think if they invest significant funds, clearly risky, into this sector, they may not get the financial returns that they're looking for, and so those funds don't be available. Often in the newspapers you'll see, or the media, you will see university spin-offs, science graduates, etc., with a new method of recycling or doing something like that. Whether it's bugs eating plastic, whether it's cleaning up the Pacific garbage patch, whether it is creating oil from plastic. A lot of these things, there's promising technologies that really could benefit from significant investment, but that investment doesn't seem to be there. And I suppose why? I suppose if you're an investor, a private investor, there is an aspect of a charity aspect to this stuff. If we clean up the Pacific garbage patch, who is going to pay for that? Does that actually create wealth? It does create wealth, because clearly a better environment is good. It creates, better health, better ecosystems, better tourism opportunities, better wildlife. It is clearly creating wealth for the world, but that wealth is not captured or internalized in actual dollar bills. And so when it isn't, the investors are not going to make a windfall. Realistically, any money they spend cleaning up the Pacific garbage patch is money they spend. It's highly unlikely they will receive huge returns for people benefiting from that environment. So, I think that this is something that probably we want to look at. I think generally people do what they were financially incentivized to do in corporations and in life in many ways, whether we want to accept it or not. And for one way or another, recycling innovation is not financially incentivized significantly enough, for people to risk capital on risky new ventures, risky new innovation. And so that money goes to other things. It goes to better CRM systems or, better email systems, which do they create the same value for the world and the environment? Almost certainly, I think not. But, how do we create a marketplace that can incentivize doing this and, incentivize people to invest? And I suppose the problem again we face, I suppose it's the beauty of the natural world that, fresh air is free, or at least we like to believe it is. Clearly, if you live in a certain countries where you have a lot of industrial production and low environmental standards, breathing fresh air is not free. Maybe in Australia we're lucky that it is free to breathe fresh air still. But I suppose when you have that, it makes it difficult for investors, financial investors, to allocate capital, in the words of investment, to the place that will give those best returns. And then I would argue we are allocating capital inefficiently. We're giving it to Instagrams and, those sort of aspects, social media, jobs from TikTok to whatever else, rather than something that really will benefit us for the future. So the other issue there is that I suppose it's the dead hand of the government. Are we arguing for more government regulation? Because when government regulation comes in, it tends to lead to slowness, and it's almost the opposite of capital markets. And can government legislation create a market for this stuff? One of the issues would be if one country brings in significant methods of, creating a market for this, it might hinder their other businesses, and then business will go to a lower taxed economy, etc. Almost like a capital flight to somewhere where it's more free market capitalism. So it's a tricky one, but I think clearly, we need to find some method of fixing this problem, because otherwise we will not have enough investment in innovation, in new technologies, in new ways of recycling, in new ways of doing it. And then fundamentally we're left with just, rules and regulations preventing things from happening. But which they have a lot of results clearly, and we're seeing that in the phasing out of single-use plastics. But are we optimizing what we're doing? Are we investing in the new opportunities? And how many great ideas, how many great recycling ideas are just going nowhere because people need to get paid. People need to make a living, and they will probably invest their time and efforts into something that's more financially beneficial to them and their families. So that's my thoughts today. It's something I think, no one's saying that we're going to, some of the ideas about this stuff, because it's the natural world and the environment, people, obviously nobody wants to give them to a corporation, but there has to be some method of incentivizing investment that doesn't give away all of our birthright, to the natural world and the enjoyment of the natural environment. So let's, I'll be interested to hear your feedback and ideas on this. But, I'd love to see a lot more investment in recycling. Okay, have a great day.